The colony ship Frontier Dawn drifted peacefully through the Kepler sector, its hull reflecting starlight like scattered diamonds. Inside the observation deck, Captain Jonas Merrick watched 300 sleeping colonists in cryopods, families dreaming of new worlds, children frozen in time with smiles on their faces. 20 years he'd made this run. 20 years without incident. That record ended when the darkness moved. "Captain, sensors are picking up multiple contacts," his navigator called out, voice tight with confusion. "They're not broadcasting identification codes." "They're not. Captain, what are those?" Merrick's blood went cold as shapes materialized from hyperspace, massive vessels covered in organic armor, bristling with weapons that looked designed for tearing rather than destroying. The ships moved with predatory grace, circling the Frontier Dawn like sharks around wounded prey. "All hands, battle stations," Merrick ordered, knowing it was futile. Colony transports weren't warships. They were glorified cargo haulers with families aboard. The communication console exploded with static before a voice emerged, deep, lead, filled with cruel amusement. "Human vessel. You are now property of the Apex Collective. Surrender, and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will make examples of your young." Zarkoth watched from his command throne aboard the strike carrier Blood Tithe, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. His scaled hide rippled with anticipation. For 3,000 years, the Apex Collective had hunted weaker species across 70 star systems. Humans would be no different, soft, frightened creatures broadcasting their presence across space like children begging for attention. "Begin harvesting," he commanded. "Take the adults for labor pits. The young ones for the arenas." Boarding pods launched like bullets, puncturing the Frontier Dawn's hull. Merrick grabbed a plasma rifle from the emergency locker, ancient, probably wouldn't even fire, and ran toward the cryo bay. He had to protect them. Had to give them a chance. He rounded the corner and froze. Apex soldiers filled the corridor, four-legged nightmares with too many eyes and claws dripping with venom. They moved with practiced efficiency, ripping open cryopods and dragging unconscious colonists into collection nets. Merrick fired. The plasma bolt struck an Apex warrior in the shoulder, barely singeing its armor. The creature turned, regarded him with something like pity, then backhanded him across the corridor. He hit the wall hard enough to crack ribs. Through blurred vision, he watched them take everyone. Families. Children. All of them. The last thing he heard before unconsciousness claimed him was laughter, cruel, victorious laughter that echoed through the dying ship. 300 light-years away, Dr. Rebecca Hale was having the worst day of her career, and that was before the sky caught fire. She'd been studying fungal samples in the Kepler-7 mining colony's laboratory when the first explosion hit. The building shook. Glass containers shattered. Through the window, she watched defense turrets firing uselessly at descending ships that seemed to absorb the energy like hungry mouths. Rebecca. Her assistant, Tommy, grabbed her arm. "We have to reach the shelters." They ran through corridors packed with panicking colonists. Miners still covered in dust. Families clutching children. Everyone moving with the chaotic energy of prey animals who knew the predator was already among them. The shelter doors were closing when they arrived. Rebecca pushed Tommy through the gap, but before she could follow, something massive landed behind her. She turned slowly. The creature stood 3 meters tall, covered in interlocking plates of chitin that gleamed like oil. Its eyes, 6 of them, studied her with disturbing intelligence. When it spoke, the translator implant in her ear rendered the words perfectly clear. "You are scientist, yes? We can smell the chemicals on your skin. The collective has use for your kind." "Go to hell," Rebecca spat. The creature's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Courage from prey. How quaint. It moved faster than anything that size should move, and Rebecca's world went black. In the colony's defense station, Private Marcus Webb watched his entire squad die in 14 seconds. The Apex warriors flowed through doorways like liquid death, their weapons firing crystalline shards that didn't just kill, they dissolved flesh on contact. Webb's sergeant tried to mount a defense. He lasted 3 heartbeats. His friend Jackson tried to run. He made it 5 meters. Webb found himself backed against a wall, pulse rifle empty, watching an Apex soldier approach with leisurely confidence. The alien's translator spoke in bored tones, "Human children make acceptable sport. You will survive long enough for the hunt." Something snapped inside Webb's mind. Not fear. Not panic. Something colder. He noted the weak points in the alien's armor, gaps at the joints, soft tissue near the throat. He memorized the movement patterns, the rhythm of their formations. If he was going to die, he'd die learning how to kill them better. The alien reached for him, and Webb moved. He drove his combat knife upward through the gap under the creature's jaw, felt it punch through into brain matter. The apex soldier's eyes widened in shock before it collapsed. 3 more soldiers turned toward him. Webb didn't run. He studied them, memorizing everything, even as the stun bolt hit his chest and darkness claimed him. His last conscious thought was crystal clear: they can bleed. That means they can die. Aboard the Blood Tithe, Zarkoth reviewed the harvest reports with satisfaction. 17 human colonies raided. Thousands captured. Resources claimed. Another successful hunt for the collective's glory. The humans offered minimal resistance, his second-in-command reported. They possess primitive weapons and fractured leadership. The galaxy will not mourn their passing. Zarkoth clicked his approval. Dispatch the recordings to the Collective Council. Let them see our newest prey species. Begin preparations for the main harvest, this Earth they broadcast from so carelessly. What Zarkoth didn't know, what none of the Apex Collective realized, was that every raid had been observed. Every tactic recorded. Every weakness catalogued. Deep in Earth's subterranean military command, General Victoria Cross watched the footage of the attacks with cold, calculating eyes. Around her, holographic displays showed the truth: humanity's real fleet hidden in dark space, weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, and a military doctrine built on one simple principle: let the enemy think they'd won, then teach them what real predators looked like. How long do we wait? Her aide asked. Cross's smile was winter itself. Let them take a few more. Let them get confident. Let them think we're helpless. She pressed a button, and across human space, sleeper agents activated. Hidden weapons came online. Ships that had been merchant vessels dropped their disguises. And then, Cross continued softly, we show the galaxy why humans don't just survive. We thrive on making our enemies regret ever hearing our name. The Apex Collective had made their fatal error. They'd given humanity a reason for vengeance. And humanity never forgot. The detention cells aboard the Apex Collective's processing station Crimson Harvest reeked of fear and despair. Captain Jonas Merrick pressed his face against the energy barrier, watching Apex guards drag another group of humans toward the labor pits. 17 days since his capture. 17 days of watching his people broken, beaten, and worse. Captain, whispered a voice beside him. Private Marcus Webb crouched in the shadows, his eyes sharp despite the bruises covering his face. Third shift change happens in 40 minutes. Guards get sloppy. Pattern repeats every cycle. Merrick studied the young soldier. Most prisoners had given up, but Webb watched everything with an intensity that bordered on obsession. You planning something, Private? Always. Webb scratched marks into the cell floor, diagrams, guard rotations, structural weaknesses. These things think they're apex predators. But predators get comfortable. They stop expecting prey to bite back. Before Merrick could respond, the facility's lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then steady again. Webb smiled for the first time since capture. That's the signal. What signal? The one that means we're not alone anymore. 12,000 kilometers above the processing station, Lieutenant Damian Torres floated in the black void of space, his stealth suit rendering him invisible to Apex sensors. Around him, 20 other members of Earth's Shadow Corps hung like vengeful ghosts. Breach team, sound off, Torres whispered into his comm. One by one, his team confirmed readiness. They'd been inserted via micropods 3 hours ago, drifting on trajectories that made them look like space debris. The Apex Collective's arrogance was their weakness. They'd never encountered a species that specialized in infiltration. Torres checked his chrono. Execute in 30 seconds. Remember, they think we're primitives. Let's educate them. The team moved as one, attaching breaching charges to the station's lower hull. When the explosives detonated, they didn't punch through, they melted precise holes, silent and surgical. Shadow Corps operators poured inside like smoke. The first Apex guard died without understanding what killed him. Torres's monomolecular blade separated the creature's head from its body before it could trigger an alarm. 2 more guards rounded the corner. Torres's team dropped them with neural disruptors, weapons the Collective had no defense against because they didn't know such weapons existed. Power distribution center is 3 levels down, Torres said, moving through corridors with practiced ease. Trip their systems. Make them think it's a malfunction. We want them confused before we start the real work. Engineer Yuki Tanaka, part of Torres's infiltration team, connected her datapad to an Apex terminal. The alien technology was advanced, but predictable. She smiled as she uploaded a virus specifically designed to make the collective systems turn against them. "Done," she said softly. "Their security grid thinks the prisoners are guards and the guards are intruders. Should be entertaining." Throughout the station, automated defenses began targeting Apex soldiers. Blast doors locked randomly. Life support systems created localized atmosphere failures. The collective's own technology became a weapon against them. Torres activated the facility-wide comm system. When he spoke, his voice carried to every cell, every corridor, every corner of the station. "Attention all human prisoners. This is Earth Shadow Corps. We're here to bring you home. When your cell doors open, follow the blue emergency lights. Any Apex soldier you encounter is now fair game. Earth remembers. Earth responds. Earth never leaves its people behind." The cell barriers died simultaneously that I end the detention block. Marcus Webb didn't hesitate. The moment his barrier dropped, he was moving. He grabbed a discarded Apex weapon from a confused guard, who found himself locked in the cell as automated systems betrayed him, and tossed another to Captain Merrick. "Time to return the favor, Captain." Merrick caught the weapon, muscle memory from decades of military training flooding back. Around them, prisoners emerged from cells, frightened, beaten, but not broken. Webb's voice cut through their uncertainty. "Listen up. We've got one chance at this. Stay together, watch each other's backs, and remember what these bastards did to our families." His voice rose to a roar. "Show them what happens when you corner humans." A primal sound erupted from 300 throats, not a scream of fear, but a war cry that made Apex soldiers freeze in recognition of something they'd never encountered before, prey that refused to stay prey. The prisoners surged forward like a tidal wave. Some grabbed weapons. Others used bare hands. Years of human evolution, from caves to starships, had never erased the fundamental ability to turn fear into fury. An Apex warrior tried to block their path. 20 humans buried it under sheer numbers, and when they moved on, the creature didn't rise again. Webb led the charge toward the hangar bay, following the blue lights Torres's team had activated. Behind them, the station descended into chaos, alarms blaring, automated defenses firing randomly, and Apex soldiers discovering that the species they'd thought helpless was anything but. 10 light-years away at the Kepler-7 mining colony, Dr. Rebecca Hale sat in a laboratory that had been converted into a research prison. The Apex Collective wanted her knowledge, her expertise in biological systems. They'd spent days trying to break her through intimidation, through pain, through promises. They didn't understand that every question they asked gave her information about them. She'd learned their biology, their weaknesses, their chemical composition. Every sample they forced her to analyze became a weapon in her mind. And now, watching Apex scientists work around her with arrogant confidence, she made her move. The chemical storage locker was poorly guarded. Why wouldn't it be? Prisoners didn't know Apex biology. Except Rebecca did now. She'd memorized which compounds were lethal to their species, which combinations created toxic gases their filters couldn't handle. When the lab supervisor turned away, Rebecca mixed 3 chemicals in precise ratios. The resulting compound was invisible, odorless, and absolutely deadly to Apex respiratory systems. She activated the ventilation override, another arrogant oversight, and watched as the gas spread through the research wing. Apex scientists began dropping within seconds, clawing at their throats, their advanced biology betrayed by chemistry they'd never encountered in such combinations. Rebecca calmly walked through the dying guards, collecting weapons and access codes. "You wanted my expertise," she said to the gasping lab supervisor. "Congratulations. You got it." She opened the research wing's detention cells, freeing 200 human scientists and engineers. "Anyone here remember their basic chemistry? Because I just figured out how to make these creatures very, very mortal." Within the hour, the colony's human population had transformed from prisoners into an organized resistance. Rebecca's chemical weapons spread through ventilation systems. Engineers sabotaged power grids. Miners who'd spent years working in dangerous conditions proved surprisingly effective at urban warfare. The Apex Collective had wanted to harvest Kepler-7. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare where every corridor held death, every shadow hid enemies, and their own technology turned traitor. In the Collective's home system, Supreme Overlord Savrath received the first reports with disbelief that rapidly turned to rage. "Impossible." His massive form rose from the command throne, scales bristling. "Humans are Category 5 prey species. They possess no advanced military. 16 processing stations have gone dark, his intelligence officer reported, voice trembling. 4 to 7 raiding parties have ceased communication. Our outposts report coordinated attacks by human forces using technology we've never encountered. Supreme Overlord, they've been hiding their true capabilities. Savratha's mind raced. 3,000 years the collective had dominated the galaxy. 3,000 years of perfect hunts. How could primitives? The holographic display activated, showing footage from a dying Apex warship. Savrath watched in horror as human vessels emerged from what had appeared to be empty space, stealth technology generations beyond what the collective possessed. The human ships moved with lethal precision, targeting weak points the collective didn't know they had. But worse than the technology was what he saw in the footage of captured stations. Humans fighting with a ferocity that defied logic. Humans using psychological warfare that broke veteran Apex warriors. Humans who didn't just want to escape, they wanted revenge. One clip showed a human soldier standing over a fallen Apex commander. The human's face was calm, almost serene, as he spoke directly to the camera. You came to our homes. You took our families. You thought we were prey. Let me teach you about human history. We've been apex predators since we lived in caves. We just got better at hiding it. The feed cut to black. Savrath felt something he'd never experienced in his long life, genuine fear. The collective had made an error, not tactical, but fundamental. They'd assumed that because humans appeared weak, they were weak. They'd confused restraint for inability. Recall all hunting parties, Savrath ordered. Fortify our home systems. And send a message to the collective council, we may have awakened something far more dangerous than we imagined. But it was already too late. Across Apex-controlled space, human strike teams were moving like ghosts, turning the hunters into the hunted. Processing stations burned. Warships vanished in the night. And everywhere the collective looked, they found humans who'd been systematically studying them, learning their weaknesses, preparing for this exact moment. The Apex collective had spent millennia perfecting the art of the hunt. Humanity had spent millennia perfecting the art of war. And now, the galaxy would learn which skill mattered more. Admiral Cairn Frost stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Righteous Fury, watching the tactical display paint a picture of systematic destruction. 43 Apex collective strongholds had fallen in the past month. Not captured, erased. His fleet didn't liberate Apex territory. They sterilized it. Admiral, the Zephyr Strike Group reports successful elimination of the collective staging area in the Terminus sector. Commander Okoye reported, her voice carrying the same cold satisfaction that had become standard among humanity's military. No survivors. No retreats. Total annihilation. Frost nodded, his scarred face expressionless. He'd been a merchant captain when the Apex collective raided his convoy, watching helplessly as they took his crew, including his daughter. The collective had made a mistake that day. They'd let him live, thinking one traumatized human wasn't worth the ammunition. That mistake had cost them an empire. Deploy hunter-killer squadrons to the Vex Nebula, Frost ordered. Intelligence indicates collective remnants are gathering there. I want them found. I want them eliminated. No exceptions, no mercy, no quarter given. Around him, the bridge crew worked with mechanical efficiency. These weren't the hopeful explorers who'd left Earth decades ago. These were soldiers forged in the fire of betrayal, tempered by loss, and sharpened by an absolute refusal to forgive. Humanity had finally shown the galaxy its true face. And that face was terrifying. In the ruins of what had been the Apex Collective's primary research facility on Draken 4, Dr. Rebecca Hale walked through laboratories filled with Apex scientists working under armed guard. The irony wasn't lost on her. The species that had captured humans for experimentation now found themselves test subjects. Subject 47, please extend your primary manipulator appendage, Rebecca said clinically, watching an Apex researcher tremble as human soldiers kept weapons trained on it. She drew blood samples with the same detached professionalism the collective had shown her people. A young human lieutenant approached. Dr. Hale, Command wants to know if you've made progress on the biological countermeasures. Rebecca held up a vial of amber liquid. This compound disrupts Apex neural chemistry, causing cascading system failures. Airborne dispersal, undetectable until symptoms manifest, fatal within hours. We could deploy it across their remaining colonies within a week. The lieutenant's eyes widened. That's genocide, Doctor. Rebecca's expression didn't change. Yes. Just like what they planned for us. She placed the vial back in its case. Don't worry, Lieutenant. I haven't recommended deployment. We're better than they are, We remember that difference even when they made us forget it temporarily. But they need to know we have this capability. They need to understand that humanity's mercy is a choice, not a weakness. She turned back to the apex scientists. You wanted to study us. You wanted to understand what made humans work. Here's your lesson. We're the species that builds weapons we pray we'll never use. We're the species that can create extinction and choose restraint. That's what makes us different from you. One of the apex scientists, a female with dark green scales named Veshra, spoke through the translator. Why spare us then? Why not simply eliminate the collective entirely? Rebecca studied the scientist for a long moment. Because vengeance and justice aren't the same thing. You'll live, but you'll live knowing that humanity could have done to you what you did to others. You'll spend the rest of your existence understanding that you survived because we chose to let you survive. That lesson will echo louder than any weapon we could deploy. She walked toward the exit, then paused. Oh, and Veshra? Every apex world will receive the formula for the countermeasure to our biological weapons. Free of charge. So you can protect yourselves from species who might not be as merciful as humans. Consider it a gift, and a reminder. In the Kepler-7 mining colony, now transformed into a military fortress, Sergeant Nina Volkov led her strike team through the war room. Holographic displays showed apex collective movements across 17 star systems, fractured, panicked, desperate. Volkov had spent 6 months in apex fighting pits before Shadow Corps extracted her. 6 months watching humans torn apart for sport. 6 months memorizing every face of every apex warrior who'd laughed at human suffering. She'd made a list. Now she was working through it. Target confirmed in the Obsidian Belt, her intelligence officer announced. Hunt Master Zarkov, the butcher who led the initial colony raids. His ship is hiding in the asteroid field, broadcasting false distress signals. Volkov's smile was predatory. How poetic. The hunter becomes prey, crying for help. She turned to her team, 20 soldiers, all former prisoners, all carrying the same cold fire in their eyes. Gear up. We're going hunting. 3 hours later, Volkov's stealth corvette Payback drifted silently through the asteroid field. Standard tactics would involve a quick strike, destroy the target and leave. But Volkov hadn't come for quick. She'd come for thorough. Disable their engines, she ordered. Board them. I want Zarkov alive. The boarding action was brutal and efficient. Apex warriors who terrorized human colonies found themselves facing soldiers who fought with a fury born from calculated rage. Volkov moved through the ship's corridors like death incarnate, her neural blade cutting through apex soldiers with surgical precision. She found Zarkov on the bridge, desperately trying to send a distress signal. When he saw her, his mandibles clicked in recognition. You, he hissed. The human from Processing Station Theta. You survived the pits. I survived, Volkov confirmed, her voice eerily calm. And I remembered. Every face. Every name. Every species in your collective who thought humans were entertainment. She deactivated her blade. I'm not going to kill you, Zarkov. That would be mercy. She gestured, and her team dragged forward 3 other Apex commanders they'd captured in previous raids. You're all going to trial. Public trial. Every species in this galaxy will watch as we present evidence of your crimes. You'll see your empire dismantled piece by piece. You'll watch your legacy become a cautionary tale about underestimating humanity. Zarkov's eyes widened in horror. You cannot, the collective will never. The collective is broken, Volkov interrupted. Your supreme overlord is in custody. Your fleets are scattered. Your territories are being liberated by the species you enslaved. You're not apex predators anymore, Zarkov. You're historical footnotes. And humanity is writing the history. On the collective's home world of Apex Prime, Supreme Overlord Savrath knelt in chains before a galactic tribunal. Representatives from 47 species filled the chamber, worlds the collective had terrorized for millennia. And standing at the prosecution table was a human he recognized, Captain Jonas Merrick, the colony ship commander from the first raid. Merrick's voice was steady as he presented holographic evidence. For 3,000 years, the Apex Collective has operated under the assumption that might equals right. They hunted, they harvested, they destroyed without consequence. His eyes locked on Savrath. They made a fatal error when they attacked humanity. Not because we're stronger, though we are. Not because we're more advanced, though we've proven that too. They failed because they never understood that true apex predators don't just hunt. They protect. The hologram shifted, showing human forces liberating enslaved populations, human doctors treating wounded aliens, human engineers rebuilding destroyed worlds. Humanity doesn't just wage war. We wage peace. We don't just defeat enemies. We transform them into something better. Savratha's voice was hollow. You speak of mercy, but I've seen your weapons. I've watched your soldiers. You're more ruthless than we ever were. Yes, Merrick agreed softly. Because we choose when to be ruthless. That's the difference between you and us. You were predators because that's all you knew. We're predators who learn to be something more, and can return to predation when necessary. You never scared us, Savrath. You just reminded us why we developed claws in the first place. The tribunal's verdict was unanimous. The Apex Collective would be dismantled. Their territories divided among the species they'd oppressed. Their leaders imprisoned. Their legacy erased except as a warning to future would-be conquerors. As guards led Savrath away, he heard Merrick's final words, "Your species will survive. You'll rebuild. And maybe, in a few generations, you'll understand what you awakened. Humanity doesn't hold grudges forever. But we never, ever forget." 6 months later, Admiral Frost stood in the Memorial Garden on Earth, surrounded by crystal monuments bearing the names of those lost to the Apex Collective. His daughter's name was there, carved in light that would shine for centuries. General Victoria Cross joined him, her weathered face reflecting satisfaction mixed with exhaustion. The last Apex holdout surrendered this morning. It's over. Is it? Frost asked quietly. We've shown the galaxy what humans can do when pushed. Some species will respect that. Others will fear it. And fear breeds new threats. Cross nodded. Then we'll deal with those threats when they come. But we'll do it on our terms, with our eyes open. The galaxy thought humanity was weak because we valued peace. Now they know we value peace because we understand the alternative. She placed a hand on Frost's shoulder. Your daughter would be proud. We didn't become monsters to defeat monsters. We became the galaxy's conscience, the species that can wage total war and choose not to. That's real power. Across human space, ships returned to ports. Soldiers reunited with families. Scientists returned to exploration. The war machine that had destroyed the Apex Collective began transforming back into a civilization, but one that would never again be caught unprepared. In the depths of space, other species watched and learned. The galaxy had a new apex predator, one that hunted only when necessary, that protected the weak, that turned enemies into cautionary tales rather than corpses when possible. Humanity had proven it could be ruthless. Now it would prove it could be magnanimous. Both lessons were equally terrifying to those who'd built empires on oppression. The Apex Collective's fatal error wasn't attacking humanity. It was assuming that humans who chose peace were incapable of war. They'd learned the truth too late. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or tactics. It was the choice to be merciful, and the ability to revoke that mercy when pushed too far. The galaxy would remember. And in remembering, they'd ensure no one made the collective's mistake again. Humanity had arrived. And the stars would never be the same.